Yeah. Yeah, I think the off week, the couple days that the players had off were good. I think it was a little bit like a 10 or 11 week kind of stretch where they really didn't have much off other than, you have one day off a week. But with that, you still have school. So it was, I think the guys looked a little refreshed. Sunday was pretty good. We got to have a great week of practice. And our guys understand looking at the film in North Alabama. First off, this is a big game for both of us. It's always a big game for both of us. They very easily could have beat a very good Kennesaw team at Kennesaw. If you saw the game, which I watched live. So, and they've got some really good players. So it's going to, and it's a different environment, playing it, which I think is kind of neat, but it is going to be different. I mean, adjusting to playing in a minor league stadium and going in one direction and all that kind of stuff. So we got to be focused and understand, that we're going to get their best shot and we got to play well. So I'm excited for our guys' preparation this week. I think it's going to be a great crowd up there. It should be a neat environment. Yeah, I think that we're probably a little healthier than we were after the game. Zion was banged up, so off week was good for him. Some other guys, a couple other guys we may not get back, but at the same time, I think we're probably a little healthier than we were coming into the Kennesaw game, and the bye came at a good time. We didn't have anybody. Uh, we haven't lost anybody for the season. We still have a couple guys, particularly some special teams guys that may not be able to play this weekend game. But I guess if you're looking at it, and as the first thing you see a lot of these coaches that are in mid-season saying, geez, this injury here and injury there, and you see it in the NFL, you see it everywhere else. It does affect your team. I mean, it does. There's a reason why there's guys that are starters and guys that are backups. The backups probably aren't quite as good, and so when you're playing them, you're not going to be quite as good a lot of times. But we've had a few injuries, but and I'm hoping, knock on wood, we won't get any more the rest of the year. But you got to be prepared for that. And the hardest part for us is like everybody's kind of a freshman in the system, but you with a veteran player that's played some, at least some of his fundamentals are already there. When you have to play a young guy that's still learning the system and he hadn't quite got the fundamentals down, that's when it really affects you more. Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, we went full pads and had pretty good intense practices. We scrimmaged with the young guys after Tuesday's practice for only about 15 minutes, but that was really good. We wanted to see those guys in a live situation and kind of evaluate them a little bit, and I think the players enjoyed that. So we did that Tuesday. Wednesday was a normal practice, and then they had Thursday, Friday, Saturday off from practicing. So normally I would have practiced Thursday morning, but I wanted to get the coaches on the road recruiting, give the players a little bit more extra time to be, to kind of get caught up academically and health wise, and so hopefully that worked out. But you always worry about, okay, do you lose your conditioning? Because conditioning is such a big factor for us. But we'll practice pretty intensely on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and make sure we keep our conditioning. Yeah, I've never done it before. The first thing I always thought, do we have to be on the same sidelines with them? Because I've seen some of that in bowl games, played at baseball stadiums, and that's not the case. So that makes it a little bit easier to manage. Now, our guys have went up there and looked at the stadium. They say the grass, it's going to be grass, it's going to be in great shape. And, going in one direction is a little bit different. I mean, most coaches and teams are used to doing that in practice for scrimmaging and all that. But the environment, that'll be a little bit different for us. So we'll go up there Friday and kind of walk through it. And it's the same for both teams, so it shouldn't be a factor. Oh, I loved to watch. I watched all these coaches suffer on Saturday. It was beautiful. I mean, you can sit back here and watch a couple games at a time and not worry about making 100 different decisions. And trying to hopefully you have more right decisions than wrong decisions. You can sit back and watch somebody else do it. I had a chance to watch some of our future opponents on. I was proud of myself. I found it on my iPad and was able to connect to some of the teams were playing, which, technology, my wife and I aren't the best. Usually I have to get Raquel or Rhett to help us, but we figured it out. So we were able to watch some of our opponents on the games and watch some of the other college football. I think there's nothing better than college football. I mean, I love the NFL too, but college football, there's a different level, I think, of intensity, excitement, what have you. And so watched a bunch of games and relaxed and we, a message with some recruits and that kind of thing, but it was a good weekend. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, you felt for some of these teams that had, like Florida State had the game won, NC State. They just one more run play, kick a field goal, and there it goes. They had a mistake and it cost them a game. And then, here, obviously around here, everybody was probably watching the A&M Alabama game. A&M had one play to win that game. There's such, I think coaches say it all the time, but there's so many factors that go into it, and we know it for ourselves. I mean, you can have a couple bad plays and cost you a game, and that's all it takes nowadays. So it's you when you're watching, you're feeling it, and everybody wants to critique the coaches or the players, what have you, and they're still. You got to remember, these are, I don't want to say they're kids. They're not kids, but they're not fully grown, mature, professional adults. And even the professional adults make mistakes. If you watched the game last night a little bit. By the way, if that was roughing the passer, when the big old guy, I'm still trying to figure that out. And I don't care. Hell, the NFL's going to find me, right? I mean, that's horrible. I mean, that's a game changer, right? Did you watch that? And I understand you want to try to protect the quarterback. But this guy, Chris Jones, made a great play, sack, and recovered the fumble. He's trying to recover the fumble. What do you want him to do? Not recover the fumble. It's a game changer. And so I'm anxious to see, just from a coaching and a fan perspective, will they come out and admit that was a horrible call? We may have cost them the game by making that call. And I don't know, but they won, but it's kind of, when you watch that, just like if I was a defensive coach, like who the roughing the passer should have been called against the offensive tackle that got beat. That's who the penalty should be on. Call the penalty on him. He's the one that roughed the passer because he got beat so quickly and caused a. So I watched that and I'm like, holy cow, this is that is that. I, as a coach, I said, I don't think I've ever in 35 years gotten a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on a coach on me. I deserve plenty of them, but I don't think I've ever got one. But I would probably got one if I was Coach Reed last night on that deal, because that was just nuts. But anyway, I forgot what the hell you asked about anyway. But yeah, so I watched that too. I watched the end of that game last night. Nuts. Trey? Yeah, Trey's, I'm not saying it because he's here. He's just a good football player. You could probably put him at tackle. He'd know what's going on. He's coach's kid, right? So they're going to have a little bit of knowledge about football, but he's good at guard. He's good at center, and Kanji's healthy now, so we can play Kanji and we can play Trey, but Trey's too good of a football player not to play or be a starter. And he's pretty stout in there. He's really taking charge of us up front. And we needed that. With Kanji going down, boy, what are we going to do? We got a veteran in trade. He slid right over there and has done a great job. Yeah, Jamari's. I think he made one of the best plays we had with the interception he got, and he's one of our fastest guys. I was going to get him some reps at, running, maybe playing some receiver, running some reverses, and we just hadn't got to that. He hadn't bugged me about it yet, but that's still a possibility. But yeah, he's in the back here. He's trying to start a rumor, but he is, he's a competitive guy, loves to play. He's fast. He's athletic, and we challenge our corners. They play a lot of man coverage, and we put a little bit of pressure on, but we do that because we know they can handle it. Oh, did he? I didn't hell out. I didn't know that. That's good for Fred. Fred always said Fred's one of those guys. He's like that dog that makes a mess all the time. You keep yelling at it and put it in the closet. Then he does it again. And he does it again. He makes a lot of messes. But he comes back with a smile every time. It's like my little dog Rambo. He's just like Rambo. I mean, you just love him to death. But you know you're gonna have to yell at him. About 3-4 times a day. I think he likes the attention. Kind of something just like Rambo. But Fred's going to be a great player. He's a very physical guy. Football's important to him. He loves playing, and he's played really for a true freshman. He's played on a lot of special teams, played a lot of defense, and we think he's got his best football still out in front of him. Yeah, probably. You could have to ask them how they'll feel. They'll probably tell you, hell yeah. So when we have another bye week, let's have 3 more days off. It depends on how we play Saturday, maybe depend on how I handle the next bye week, right? But it's it was. When you go, like I said, I think it was 11 weeks or so because we started week 0 and started in the end of July. Even if you have 1 day off, say Monday's off from football, it's still a little bit of time where you just want a day or two you don't have to do anything, school wise or football wise. And so that was what my mindset is, that every coach gave them a position test to do, to think a little bit of football, but we also wanted their minds and their bodies to be refreshed for a couple of days, because it is a lot. There's a lot of time. You got 20 hours a week with them, but in reality they do a lot more than that. Whether put in academically, if you want to be a really good football player, you got to work more than 20 hours a week in your preparation individually. So they probably needed a couple of days off. And for our coaches, we had to get on the road, and recruiting such a critical factor. And it's hard to recruit during a season like you want to. And so for our coaches to get out Thursday, Friday, and even a couple of the guys Saturday to watch some junior college games, we needed to get out there, because the recruiting piece of it that's something that you got to do every day on this level.
I spend my off week by making sure my body prepared for these next couple of games, and just making sure I can play to 100%. So this break was good for the whole team. I'm pretty sure everybody say that, because we've been grinding hard. So I think that's a good positive play by coach. The game coming up, I would say we most definitely we have plenty of time to get ready for them. So I really think we're gonna play to our good potential, how he is. So I think the game gonna be good for us. Yeah, I went to go and see my family, my grandma. Made sure they was good. So I went to go and see them, and just made sure I see everybody, because once football season ends, you really don't get to see your family because you locked in. So that was good time. So. Mm, very. Yeah, it was real good. I really appreciated that, because you got to be locked in. Once you come here, coach, you gonna make sure you locked in. So yeah. Uh, it's kind of weird. That's gonna be my first game ever having to do that. Cause I was thinking, what if we get a pick? Do we go? Do we keep going that way, or do we just have to pause something like this? So that's what I was thinking about. Okay. Well, I have 3 of them. One is my number, and the C is for my cousin, Sincere. He had passed away when I was in high school, and the J is just for my family, because we all had Jemison as our last name. So, uh, recently, I this the first chain I had. I had this for my family. Then I had got this one once my cousin passed, and I got this one. I want to say when they had surprised me with the number 0. So that's how I ended up getting all these. Yes, sir. I was the first person to ever have it here, so it was a big accomplishment for me. So, uh, CNSERE. Mm-hmm. That was one of my closest cousins. Cause we lived in the same neighborhood and we used to do a lot together. But I ain't do. I was really more of a kid that played by himself. But when I did play with people, I played with my cousin Sincere. So he was older than me. Like he was 1 year older than me. Oh, Fred most definitely was locked in that whole week, and it showed on game day. It really did. He was making plays everywhere, sideline to sideline. Really, you can see how fast he was playing. So he was most definitely locked in that whole week. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I really think he got more potential in him, but he's most definitely made that transition very very quickly and very good. So that's one thing I say about Fred.
My off week it was kind of slow. I was ready to get back on the field, but Thursday we had off. Thursday through Monday we had off. Or well, Sunday we did practice, but I stayed in Jacksonville because I live in South Carolina, Spartanburg, South Carolina. So I just stay home in Jacksonville, and I was just relaxing. Go ahead and get my hydration right. Um, yeah, ready to play. UNA, it's always a big game. I've been here for a while now, so I know the rivalry with UNA, and they're a real scrappy team. They play hard, and we're gonna be ready for them. Uh, no, I didn't really watch any games this weekend. I kind of like just stayed to myself, got my schoolwork done. Uh, that's mostly all I did. I didn't really watch any football this weekend. Right. Um, I've been preparing to play center since spring, so it wasn't really that big of a difference, that big of a deal. Um, obviously, like I was really worried about Kanji, but I had to go out there and do a job, and I was prepared for it. Center, I gotta make the mic deck. I got a lot more to think about in comparison to guard. Guard, I kind of know exactly what I need to do and like envision that. But center, I gotta know what everybody needs to do, and if they just stem to a different front, I gotta call out a different mic, and we all have to do something different. So we all got to be locked in and engaged. Right. Well, it's like what Coach Rich Rod said. Like I'm a coach's kid, so like I already like when I'm at guard, I'm already thinking about that anyway. But I know like I'm confident in my mic decks and stuff that I'm gonna call the right stuff. So it's a big difference, but it's not too big of a deal for me. Coach Trickett is real hard nosed, old school, uh, but he knows exactly what he's talking about. Uh, he's a great coach. He's a really great coach. um, Always being around football. it's tough sometimes, like especially when you're young. Like I always like used to mess with the guys, the high school guys. 'Cause my dad was a high school coach in South Carolina. I used to mess with the high school guys, and I got a little older. I got to like 13. I was like, man, I'm about to be playing with these guys. Let me stop messing with them. But you know, it's a blessing to always be around football. I love this game, and I just really appreciate being here, like being able to play football.